Hello, fellow YouTubers, especially people who are on YouTube who could see this video. The news has been planting fake evidences at crime scenes since founding. Forgiveness is for the difference between those who tell and or those who between need to be told on, or the difference of that. Where and how if the law, if the Constitution, unabridged, is paid is appreciated, honestly, always, not denying the slightest detail left out, not valuing simultaneous truths and revelations left out. This gives us means to show truths that are being and have been used for lies, and or truths that came first, denied the value of that relative to uses of truths for lies, and overt lies, and tactical delusions juxtaposed. Since before founding but fluent through it, the experts that have been describing reason have been criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and they've been shown needs to hide that. Just same way they have collusions with the interbranch locations. These same names and locations had and have roles with a whole bunch of different countries, all the countries in the news. So my sixth grade class had a Tom Peruta, who's one of the people involved with it. I don't even know their names. Perutas and his family. I don't know any of them. I don't know if that's the one from Harvard. There's a woman who says she's a Russian from Harvard Hospital. And these are people with crimes against Russians as Russians. Roles with uses of the difference of that A through Z. Now you know how Russians and China people from China were here before our founders were born. And they were there already a part of that system that was criminally foreign influenced. Even though I don't know if Mao used those words exactly, nature shows that our leaders, not just America's, they wanted us to use words like criminal foreign influences, but they also wanted us to show how names A through Z had already been used as systems tactical ulterior and from its system, which uses us individually grouped and together. So all these systems have used individually grouped and together. All natures of unity, like to blame things on money, to blame things on poverty, even when believing it as the right syntactical word, because it's way worse than poverty. The suburbs were tactically denatured, and that was sustained, and then our founders were born. They were the uses of phrases, all words, therefore all phrases, but uses of the phrase white supremacy, for example, it is used to measure and maintain collusions with their difference that the formal identities of the law have with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and names, and the difference of that and the intelligence tied to them, and how that is, that difference is used too, where we are fact checking nature, where they described already instances and names as styles of logic and or as natures of logic that can't afford how that is discernible to be discerned. Before our countries individually grouped or together used phrases like criminal insidiousness or corrections note. The state of Connecticut corrections offices and the judicial branch offices in conjunctions to it, like Weathersfield Pizza, and like how the name changed a little bit with the sign. That's involved with wire crimes with Weathersfield Pizza and the Weathersfield Police, with child offenders, leaders of the kid, child abusers of the kids. These same names have roles with timed people on off elderly homes, on off veterans buildings. Now, if you note those veteran buildings, they look just like those big towers in New York City. Any honest American, any honest human being knows that cities across the world. We know some obviously The suburbs were designed before our founders were born, and they were designed for that torture and for that extortion method that they told us to treat with honesty. They communicated for us to communicate about that with honesty, not leaving out the smallest finite detail, not making them up, of valuing that, not leaving out simultaneous values, not as a nature pretending passions and emotions, just to keep the quality of fact, human nature, criminal insidiousness. Like when someone says our founders didn't have free speech. Of course, they didn't have free speech. They had slavery laws entrenched sickly distinctly north and south. So you have the celebrities sickly distinctly from YouTubers, sickly distinctly from the interbranch pretending passions and emotions online when they speak, offensively needing to pretend not to realize things. So at the same time, with the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, it is fluent through the arts. Control your hearts, boxing. I teach us things, but law. Follow mandated law. It is discernible relative to this. There are World Trade Center predicate acts, and there are motivations for it planting, which are tactical ulterior than they've been pretending in the backgrounds with the news and at interbranch locations where they have roles with collusions at all sides in criminal and civil cases. The same ones involved sometimes, increasingly this breaching method employed everyone to do things they didn't want to do, but it made exceptions for them, including at the end of the whip. So before we had this, before they had people speak about the Patriot Act, they had roles with predicate acts slash the hyper predicate acts delivery system method, the breaching method, if you won't refer to it that way. There are many pray, and they have prayed so long. But two is evidence. It's hyper evidential. So we have the hyper evidential that we could use to show originally and still collusion slash S with the private criminal enterprises, private in the branches of government left standing, the right to lie, readings of statutes and precedents left manifest by a breaching method that left that only capable of being, where any nature of unity, any nature of independence simultaneously, they would be measured and maintained identities of relativity to identities of the ground's voices, and then further as ground voicing, as nature's works. But we have all stupid jerks through systems other than nature's cause. That is also positive unto itself. That this breaching method was hyper sophistication and showed our most sophisticated identities of the law to blame on other things, others, ourselves. Criminal foreign influences, things like criminal foreign influences, and or to blame it wrongly, exactly the way, even when correctly, exactly the way the breaching method wanted and needs them to do, because it has wants and needs for criminal insidiousness natures of truths used for lies, and like insidious natures of positives, like the fact that someone's a doctor or the fact that someone works with healthcare. Originally and still, there are people that had nothing to do with healthcare because they're all identity ground locations were assigned and then by the breaching method, uses by the breaching method, and then further employed a hyper additional apparent motivation, nature's needs and interests. But we were are to begin with those interests inseparable from the breaching method, inseparable from what was the consciousness behind not just the person at the end of the whip, the proverbial whip. This is the fact, human nature, torture, extortion, and slavery of our founders, sickly distinctly from the founders. They had to counter extort, which is they all had to counter extort each other. The portion as the Native Americans had to counter extort each other. They had to fight with each other about how to react syntactically, because that's forced by the sustained breaching method, but through our own, because all nature's demonstration of it came simultaneously and come simultaneously through and with hyper additional apparent motivations, nature's needs, interest. Don't forget it employed that. See, but you guys don't let go about that. where and how you can't defend that and as practical. Like, for example, the value of a job or the difference of the roles with by the breaching methods uses of the difference of people's motivations for their jobs or their roles with other natures of organized crime. Slash S, crimes. Organized crimes, totally distinct organized crime body, totally distinct criminal enterprises overt, and private ones juxtaposed originally and still. What is the border a wall? They keep asking what the border is about because these are locations that already had collusions with predicate acts with facts. WFSB has roles with and as intelligence, like former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. They have roles with co-defendants of his and with courts and prisons associated, and with court. Usually, when a judge is associated with the deposition of a former director of the FBI, it would be held at a prison or at a place associated with the court. But a court jumped in a civil criminal case because Hartford courts and asked they offered to host a deposition there. So they have roles with people that work for Hartford courts and their families and intimate ties, and people that live next to their houses, like a Eric Burgess, someone I never saw in Central Connecticut State University in my life. He recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, has roles with deans of colleges and with a dean judge and his family, his kids, with federal crimes with evidences, natures of identity theft, fraud, slander, where they lie about themselves and others. And they have roles with sequence shifts with people from Weathersfield and Rocky Hill and Hartford involved. They were planting evidences also in West Hartford with fire departments and a field next to the West Farms Mall. People on off the West Farms Mall associated with the name Scalora family. Per their roles with the Saudis, they forced that they made it up because they used the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie too. They have roles with judges and prosecutors switching and forging names. One of the intimate ties of one of the Scaloras involved with others like Demoro and Violet and Oliveri and others I don't know the name of on Elm Street and Rocky Hill. They have been involved in Weathersfield campuses and campuses intercity, on and off the campuses, planting identity theft, fraud, slanders. And there are timed uses of that where they use truths for lies, like to pretend people have conversations that never did. They just totally fake transcripts. And others, when I never had conversations, they made statements at corners or regarding corners too. And the difference of that is also used. The witness protection program has roles with people at with names at the corner of Griswold Street and Fairlane Drive. I don't know at all. And the other ones, like the guy who worked at a Pepsi or Coke, I don't know which one it was, company, which has shipping associated with it. No. And there's a family of police, more than one family associated with the post office. Nothing personal against the post office, too, or UPS. All exceptions show they were planting fake motivations and testing of people. And in other words, they have this with narratives of companies where and how the formal law identities needed to hide lie progressions. The way the breaching method knew they would have to hide lie progressions. They would have to use, they knew they would have to pretend. They believe they have to be appear to be credibility where they are supposed to not pretend to be credibility. Our founders left us to get the Constitution unabridged and to show how the breaching method abridged semi ancient sciences names uses and rolls with that. Therefore, rolls with the abridgments conjunctive to increasingly names A through Z of the human body, of the human species body of individual bodies, all grouped difference slash S. Really about this, and now hyper additionally about the breaching method instead Other things, others, or selves are pretended practical with reason. In other words, and with nature. And in other words, so you just let people talk and stay silent, or you have to yell. And the nature of the debate and what they think about the people's motivations of the people who have to yell. In other words, you say, okay, I record. You can record. You can have know that's record that it is recorded. Sick things with the kids, sick predicate acts with them, sick natures with them. They also use the pictures of people when they hear like they have their sexual differences, they have their physical differences employed with their roles with the intelligence from off their locations. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has roles with a whole bunch of people at New Britain Superior Court and tied to them, who have roles with mayors and names on off the state of Connecticut, judicial offices on off the state of corrections office, state of Connecticut, corrections offices and locations next to it, who have as families and people tied to them who've been planting predicate acts roles on off campuses, including with mayors and other natures of politicians and their family members, and the difference of that, where and how their sense and sensibilities are use John Austin's phrase, are criminally foreign influence, per nature's definition of it, as the Constitution unabridged. There are nature. There's a hyper evident, a forensic trail that shows criminally foreign influence uses of whiting forensics when I was a kid and now as an adult. Whole bunch of people tied to principals at that campus involved with a principal child offender. More people are on Twitter through the sale of it. They hid roles with use/s of upskirt pictures with the principal child offender and the news locations involved with that. WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves. Then they put me to changed conversations when I call them on the phone. And they have tactical delusions too. And they have roles with people when in my sixth grade class, in my fifth grade class, in my fourth grade class, associated with a body dumping spot and with overt criminal enterprises, sickly distinctly from people in my second grade and third grade class. And the first grade confessions came through from off campuses with the O'Brien family, Andrew O'Brien and Dennis O'Brien, others with the name O'Brien, with Hartford Police Departments, Weathersfield Police Department, Newington Police Family, Rocky Hill, retired police chiefs from Weathersfield involved with wire crimes with them, with the name Cololo, also a police officer who said his or her name was Sullivan. And with the Weathersfield town offices and the difference of that and the Weathersfield Police Department and the fact that they used to be there, not in the Weathersfield town offices, but below it, the Weathersfield Police Department. Now they have a new police department, and it's near the Hartford line, and they have roles with names next to there, who have also been rolled on off Trinity College in Central Connecticut, on off UConn, on off Quinnipiac University, planting evidences as identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with relativity to where and to how. Left out all this time was the fact that we have black pupils, white survive, and a breaching method simultaneously assigned that to mean other. And it assigned other to be blamed for that. But we have not even entered the debate on that because the things that are true always about that, you guys don't even, you pretend they're debatable because you are roles with the maintenance to a quality of fact should be nature that is criminal insidiousness / hyper criminal insidiousness per science. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm not a police. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a judge. They originally and still, our founders left us to observe their roles with the hyper predicate acts with facts method, individually grouped in together, simultaneously as collusion / as with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and with a whole bunch of countries also grouped that way, and then also further intersciences, and further as collusions at all crime scenes / s, keeping where the breaching method maintains, measure and maintains nature's demonstrations of itself to reason, to what we are actually capable of discerning. Just knowing American, it's real simple. Honest American history, you discern 3 volumes of Native Americans, the sides that would the voices of the leaders, the voices of the the people that would that were divided. Leaders, there was not one correct answer, and they both knew that because the correct answer was equality of fact, tribute nature. A through Z didn't have the logistical means to defend it. This is the breaking into. This is the breaking of everyone to slavery, sense and sensibilities, and pretending other. That the breaching method forced slash forces, and then you have people smile about this, like or they'll try to be aggression because they can't have discerned what is actually simultaneously value, because that would show the hyper simultaneous is the only one. Its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that 3 ways connected, where and how it is that a distinct identity of hyper invisible but still discernible. It is why we appreciate 7 names for the verb instead of just one. And what we are appreciating is how it is about the 1/3/5 identities of the parts of forever nature as time has 5 parts. Sequence true before the order of the finite, the order of the finite, the order as active group, third one. And the fourth one is that the progressive, that extent of the future we are shown to know is value now, and that we already, in other words, like the seasons, the spring, we're supposed to evaluate it now. Some ways, some ways, its identity is already here. The sciences and the seasons where they appear to share don't to not share an identity. It comes with exceptions, and as exception nature and demonstration of the same thing slash s, and hyper additionally how it uses its nature's identity relationship to itself, and the value of that, which will only stay perfectly increasing value. What appears to be exceptions in exception nature, other, has the phenomenon of Earth's a special difference in every identity of every distinct body of volume, like the species body of volume, at the same time. And this is the science of where and how we are individual grouped in species volume by and semi, completely as, but simultaneously semi as its complete identity. But where even the slightest piece of anything, even if you make something up, its complete identity's relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that is not only inseparable from that, but from each part of it, individually grouped and together. And so English was revealed to teach this. English was revealed to teach this. When and how English was revealed to value the other languages some way more than itself, because of how each of the languages were revealed to appreciate the simultaneous slash hyper simultaneous. We could see we could see and discern this simultaneously, and the only increasing value of it, so we could understand hyper discernment, how it works. All things are its identity of consciousness. This summer, or if you're in a climate where there are bugs a lot in the winter, well, approach it if it comes in your house gentle and try to talk to it and try to get it to walk onto a paper towel. Then fold the paper towel gently around it, carry it outside, and let it go. That's it. In other words, And then try, in other words, try one time, or try, if you approach the same type of insect or something aggressively, they'll run away. They know they're conscious, not just because they're scared, not just because they see your nature. And plus, we have to understand each of the words. This breaching method measured and maintained use of all words, all descriptions of all values, all names, all because the use of identity by this method that assign black and white, for example, to communicate other than with the Constitution on a bridge unabridged is communications of and is conduit to have hyper communications of liberated at last. Can't defend it until you liberate it. Can't stop wars until you have revolution understood. America's founders did not have free speech. Simultaneously, the citizens sickly distinctly did not have free speech. Just like our presidents don't have free speech. And we don't have free speech, but them and us were supposed to pretend other. Otherwise, they are sensed, hurt. Of course, leaders have to use other names and try to jump out of the fake integrity, A through Z, fake difference, fluent through each side, is hyper criminal foreign influences, let alone criminal foreign influences, black peoples, who spoke for law and subjects each, grouped and together. Someone must teach. See feather, see native drum, see the value of discernment of that breaching method which was sustained against native founders were born. No, not with free speech. See, the debate about this, they have maintained celebrities, even athletes, they have maintained the sciences. People keep obfuscating, pretend not to realize when people make convictions. Proper, like with black pupils, whites of eyes. We have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. How come no one ever brought that up when they bring up Boolean logic and descriptions of it? Come no one ever brought up how the databases were involved with the torture extortion method, slavery method that was being sustained against everyone. As those people who, as colonization, who had already had it sustained against themselves, as it had already been sustained against the modern religions, as it had already, before modern religions messengers were even born, taking the republic for which we stand, taking the exceptions it worked with, not as itself, but as itself anyway, because of nature. Nature has us as an inseparable unity as the species volume, has us an inseparable independence as an individual of the individual species body. All difference slash S are about this. So you guys have the difference of women, let alone of little girls in New York City, for example, in those big tenements, and you left out simultaneously the breaching method uses of how before our founders were born, the suburbs were designed. Again, tactically the nature of the debate regarding this. It has stayed criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and there have stayed conscious criminally foreign influence uses of that slash hyper criminally foreign influence uses of it. They have people, all the nature of dispute between people, the nature of disputes, they have self-valued roles with it, and they're lying about their motivations, like with religions. They have the religions taught tactically wrong. You're supposed to solve the disputes with the people, not in the way, exactly the way that our breaching wanted. Breaching method made people fight and hurt with each other simultaneously. It made them be unity, natures of unity. And the difference of that uses roles, needs, and natures to screen itself. Nature's increasingly demonstrating itself to us as the breaching method knew. The breaching method is a scientific value, even if it is no longer a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise and or a human fact tribute nature, human fact predicate acts with facts method slash hyper predicate acts with facts method. What is slavery? It's a predicate acts with facts method. It's incapable of defending descriptions of what it's about and of affording simultaneously short words proper by the communications of nature regarding our answers, appreciation of them. On a mass scale, people with campuses and people with medical ones, and the difference of that, and fire campuses, and the difference of that. They have staged collusions, also with the campuses they went to, and with names next to all those locations, and next to all locations, next to malls, next to shopping centers, because of how manifest the breaching method knew would be. Demonstrations of the breaching method to each location's areas and states, individuals grouped in together. This is a method that accounted for that before our founders were even born. This is a method that accounted for that before modern religion's messengers were even born. They were aware of how this was an identity, racketeering method worse than war crimes, so to speak. And the Quran and the Old Testament were written with consciousness that the people that knew the most about the Quran, the people that know the most about the Quran, people that know the most about the Old Testament, it knew correctly the breaching method, that they would stay collusions also with the people countering those religions to keep worse than obfuscated what they say right up front. And under the name of science, relative to where and to how they need to use, people who claim to be atheists. Also, someone with the name Wayne, I don't know his last name, with Berlin and Kensington Intelligence, and has people involved with the families of the leaders of the kids, including a deans and principals. Further, with a principal being child offender. More on Twitter with upskirt pictures with the guy's campus. That was forced. There are a whole bunch of policing families of the schools. There are rules with school resource officers and with intelligence, intermilitary. They speak about things like ethics. They speak like things about law. They speak about things like America, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. They should fear God to pretend to use such service, some such identity, such ways. Want to have natures of debate they cannot defend and afford to protract convictions proper by the nature proper as the Constitution unabridged. And with that, and as appreciation of that which is also only capable of staying unabridged. That which has inherent active too, increasing while here, all things a part of in semi as earth. See, but that is special difference because we are no longer going by its system's identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that as the identity that has that as itself, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and then slash hyper simultaneously. This is what it shows us. Where and how any subject we could put together, individually grouped and together. It has slash and more subjects still coming into a space, slash existence. It is those three ways bound. And this is what the seven names for the verb are about. They're about appreciation of the 1/3/5 ways. It is only one way. In other words, the 3 ways and the 5 ways, the ways it is grouped, being itself, is a demonstration of how it is being itself always. So that's why it's the importance with reasons, descriptions, let alone things as serious as the black people's whites of eyes haven't been assigned other. Because that causes wars. It causes the changed extent and definition of war. And where and how, in other words, where and how truths are used for lies on a mass scale by little kids since they were kids. Involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivations planting with a whole bunch of foreign bodies. Chris Walters, one of the people with the names Colol, with the name Colol, confessed, recorded. I never saw him on Trinity College. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have roles with Charlie Bose. There are other people with Eric Mendez. He non-verbally demonstrated. He also has verbally, he pretended with his family members, with and as Weathersfield police. They have wire, mail crime, falsified police reports, roles. Fake ties to me when I was a kid, fake ties to me as an adult. They grew up lying about themselves and others, and they try to make fake exceptions where and how they know people are going to remember others' names. These are also people associated with that ink block test and with where and how they have psychiatry manifest intercities and interstates and internationally and on and off campuses where the sciences, the names of the sciences individually grouped and together, how they are manifest. That was and is consciously exploited so long since before our founders were born. It knew on off such locations and next to them there would be lie progressions, and there were people reliant upon them because they are increasingly need to pretend they could speak for identity or for law or for any of the sciences names like English. Had English been treated honestly and properly, we would have appreciated why and how the sciences value are showing us to appreciate how the predicate act is valued to the law, where everything will only stay positive unto itself. And the predicate is valued to English the same way. All exceptions, exception nature, and demonstration, the same thing. Slash S, like lease of IDs. We could be systems other than its identity's relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that, and appreciation of that hyper additionally, as what prayer was revealed as a scientific value for by pantheism slash hyperpantheism, which is more probably and is more sanely what pantheism was about. Narratives and natures that suggest or suggested that excuse me, or evidences that suggest that pantheism was about many gods. There are proofs that is, that's affected by all the proofs that the sciences and the republic for which we stand. It is manifest as a tactically criminally re-engineered engineering of itself, which was revealed before the sciences became criminally foreign influence, and to function slash S, where its identity would be looked at, would be appreciated, not just at those locations, but anywhere and how the hyper identity's identity of the ground, its nature, its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that could be discerned For example, it is more probable, it is more practical to theorize or let alone to convict that what really most motivated the trend with the beaver pelts and where they killed the beavers on a mass scale and made it for fashion, besides the apparent motivations, like with the money, you can make money this way. It was to measure and maintain left out how nature used the beaver to show the Native Americans, for example, not just Native Americans, to show Native humanity, hyper Native humanity. We are not Native American because hyper Native Americans, hyper Native sciences are bridged. So nature shows us differences and conflicts and or pseudo unity is wrong because it's simultaneously conflict wrong and unity wrong. Exactly the way the breaching method wanted and needs. So there are three identities of founders. The founders who are not Native Americans fighting with each other, but that enabled our other founders to counter extort founders at 13 locations, not knowing them for a temporary amount of time. Now, once you extorted someone for a temporary amount of time, at that time, now people spoke things that were against the law. And the law was employed by a human fact nature breaching method, a torture slash simultaneous extortion slash simultaneous slavery method. See now the nature of the debate regarding such things, individually grouped and together, has been used as criminal insidiousness slash hypercriminal insidiousness, also as fake motivations planting, where and how proper descriptions of the law would not have left out influences and needs to interpret the law where motivations narratives are regardless. They're using fake motivations to let people not speak about predicate acts as they are actually recorded. There are people on Morgan Circle and on Randy Lane, for example, involved with Ray Kalula who've been putting fake things in databases. They time where you're going to be, make it look like you were in conversations, or know those people's names. There are people on Ray Kalula's um, mail route too, and people from Rocky Hill he knew years ago. I don't know. They try to make a fake exception. They hide what came first this way. One of the ways it motivated has to, people to self-value roles with sciences and with people's names used criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and everyone pretending other anyway. It's relative to everyone speaking through others. This breaching method employed. The difference between the government or the three branches of government use self-value already haven't been used with all names and instances descriptions, crimes descriptions, by and through people that already had roles with predicate acts with facts. So increasingly, there are people tied to a Kevin Harris and to his family who have roles intercampuses with medical offenders and their roles with medical offenders of kids associated with a Ray Reynolds. And this is everyone forced to communicate through others. These are people on Facebook too, with the Facebook pages of the campuses, including Middlesex Community College, Central Connecticut State University, and Trinity College, as people rose with untimely deaths on and off campuses connected, even if they made that up, even if they made up some of the murders, like Greg Kyler and that of Billy Grasso. People involved with all sides of criminal and civil cases, like the Witness Protection Program. Those are also people on off the World Trade Center who have roles of predicate acts with facts, also with all sides. So Ray Reynolds is also one of the ones involved with the Harris family. with my kindergarten class as people put fake things in databases with their kids years later tied to that. So they use vertical and horizontal confessions, and where and how this use it's also through communication, which is simultaneously greater than and more finite than, and is active conjunctions to what is said in ways tactical ulterior than all formal identities of the law are were already formally kept only capable of pretending other. They already painted themselves in corners, thinking, writing, reading, speaking as nature, certain type of victim slash hyper victim. This Pritchie method knew that again. It would blame other things, others, or selves as difference. The body of the species body's volume signs now through filters, now systems where and how the branches of government and are actually manifest. And the difference of that is actually manifest. It's only been systems tactical terrorism from how nature uses this. So yin yang is a picture of what has not gotten here yet, but it is here yet anyway. I did not read this. Nature itself shows us. It is more probable and is more practical to convict the alpha and omega in that yin yang had been revealed together before the sciences became abridged. Humanity had been appreciating the answers, the revelations that come from the fact slash S of where and from how we are individual, grouped, and species body of volume slash S. The ancients demonstrably appreciate how it is a distinct identity of simultaneous nature, that which as a subject, as a subject's identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that only increasing simultaneously equally, is why we have two eyes. The other species bodies have two eyes. There are exceptions, exception nature. They're the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. There's about exception nature. We we can only be its system. All exceptions and exception nature and demonstration of other. Like we could be systems other than its own, but they are only they are only with demonstrations of the same thing slash s. Leaves of Hadith, for example, forced space nature transfer, which is one of the things that is worse than death, that extinctions are, but not for the body that was killed, because the body was the body that went extinct, like a species body that goes extinct. That was its body it revealed that way. See, what we're ignoring were the causes of negative value nature systems that we don't want to be. We all admit it, A through Z. You have Cain and Abel syndrome by people pretending others do have it. We're not the ones who have to have integrity with our speech, where they're pretending to. Oh, people would never say this against Jews. They have people using the word Jew. They're putting fake words in our mouth. They're using these roles. They have religious cliques planting fake motivations, fake sense and sensibilities as their roles with the child offenders, and forcing everyone to speak through others. You have judges and prosecutors with their religious differences and the color of their skin involved with KKK themed and other natures of themed predicate acts with the Weathersfield police, wire crimes with them, falsified police reports with them through time increasingly, whole methods of it, and with the news at the same time so people can have voices, and they're lying about their motivations because they put that on paper. You're going to see They had criminally foreign influence uses of it. They have a Leahy family put fake conversations through the mail with me and about the World Trade Center attack as their roles with a whole bunch of people tied to a Dan Keene, his mother and father, and a Robert Rodriguez, further involved with child defenders, sexual and medical. There are some sick agreements with the World Trade Center attack people. These are investigators with insurance companies, people with the name Kerr, people with the name Perone. They're sexual circles. They have roles with the name Corone, Mark Corone, Kevin Corone, and a Jamie Corone recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Roles on Facebook with sociology people at Central Connecticut State University. Even if he was making it up too, you can't lie about certain things. And he's one of the ones with names on my street that I never saw on my street. His roles with their teachers, putting fake things in databases. Also, with a whole bunch of people as a whole bunch of people on off families on off Harvard Hospital's Institute of Living, which was founded on the campus of Harvard Hospital in 1822. It is like the mental health roles with emergency rooms, it's like the churches. It's like the mental health care's version of the diaspora for sociology. Also, Ray Cololo on Facebook used the word immature. He's roles with sexual and medical offenders of kids, little fakes that grew up lying about themselves and others, and to the teachers I had behind my back. And with the exceptions, where there was in front of them, with an Italian class, they're in demonstration of the same thing. Has something to do with my Italian class. They had two other people in the class, a James Crone and a Lombardo, and the Ray Colal. They have increasingly roles of people at Hartford Hospital with drugs and medicines crimes, identity thefts and frauds, timed with the news too. The news attaches little kids to fake conversations and ties to doctors as kids and then as adults through time because they're hiding lie progressions. These are people on off. I don't even know the Olsen brothers and other families. Apparently, their kids went to Trinity College too. Trinity College has been using their location to make it look like they know me through time. They tried to take a picture of me on Zion Street. They have roles with mayors from Weathersfield, like a Mayor Gold, a Mayor Amy Morambella. There are proofs. There's a whole bunch of ways tied to intelligence with intelligence community works with psychiatry and a whole bunch of other countries. And University of Maine has people involved with medical locations up there, including military, where they have with psychiatry drugs and databases no one's looking into, where they're putting fake things in those databases as personal and professional collusions with prosecutors and judges, family members, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones at the same time. More child offenders, leaders of the kids, news at the same time, and names on off a whole bunch of different tied body dumping spots and tied by even different killers, timed uses of the killers. These are people with child offenders, leaders of the kids, and killers before they got caught. They were collusions with the courts and prisons that put them away. Oh, because then they lie about their motivations. They're jumping into people's conversations and pretending they need to defend the identities of titles where they're not supposed to be defended. Our founders told us to slap their metaphysical logic right off the board. Now get them onto paper. Something to do with. So I had a critical thinking teacher. Two times I took him because he has roles with some real estate companies and people with the buildings next and the natures of infrastructure with his syntax and his roles with people involved with the World Trade Center attack too, with a Barnett. There was I was taking a master's class at English at Central Connecticut State University at the time, and before that, already people from Hartford courts and people from New Britain Superior Court, and I found out also it was Connecticut District Court They only said verbally it was Hartford Court one or more. I know it was more now because I knew from years before other people made confessions tied. Something to do with Marco Mancini. I never had a conversation with him in my life. And the conversation I had with him about peppers, about Mancini peppers, are like Boom Boom Mancini. The boxing was real quick when I was a kid. Has something to do with names like Klotz with the news. These are his teacher. He has roles with people named O'Connor. I never had a personal conversation with Mr. O'Connor. Mr. Former Director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, various unions, overt criminal enterprises, and foreign and domestic medical, including ones with the courts and the prisons and the kids and the state corrections and people with New York. New York has all kinds of medical corruption tied to uses of to black people's rights of eyes and other communicated for them while pretending natural, pretending they could speak for reason, pretended they could speak for humanity. Get that down. Then they have to pretend, oh, that's voting, which is about the voting. Even when there was an election crime, they were using criminally foreign influence readings of statutes, and they left out exceptions, even where they have the right to lie about political opponents. Local 230 has people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with the intelligence community further with Mr. Emmett and people with the name Faenza and Fazina and Stocco involved with the school board and people with the name Riley, further with interreligious spots, with further child offenders, sexual and medical, and the news at the same time. They're pretending fake motivations and bringing up the kids, doing sick things. I had an algebra teacher when I was a sophomore who repeated things sexual about the sexual relationship between a neighbor of mine, a girl. I don't know how old she is now. I never saw her around school, never saw her anywhere in life, or her brother. I don't know her parents. They're like diagonal behind me. Has something to do with their roles with the fire department, intelligence, as the ones who had time collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, in the witness protection program. Also, as their roles with the names on off the parks and the fire departments and people associated with this. Joshua Stryker on off Trinity College with the names on off Central Connecticut State University with the deans and the Dean Alford. They also Dean Alford. He demonstrated to me the day after, uh, non verbally. I didn't say anything about it because they already attached me to fake words before that and changed word and with others. They've been lying to girls from Trinity College about me, from ones that went to Weathersfield since they were kids. Has something to do with their roles with sexual circles, with the names that keep bringing things up with statements that are confessions from others. Then they lie about, in other words, that's why you should move when someone tells you to, um, I caught them doing bad things with the kids. You guys know the courts and the cops never stopped having. Look at nature shows us. You think honest science spoke for what's all the shootings in Hartford, Connecticut? Honest science shows other. Honest science though shows a whole bunch of names on off the state corrections offices and the difference between the adjacents and the conjunctions to that, and off the state judicial branch offices and the differences in the adjacents and conjunctions to that as roles with wire crime acts and methods with Weathersfield Police and with the courts involved with that, mail crimes with them, all kinds of falsified police reports. The police put me in fake conversations with them when I was a kid. With the news now, when I'm adult, because they're hiding lie progressions from the past. They've been putting fake things in databases every year. Black pupils. Yeah. They painted themselves in corners. In other words, so the courts had roles with locations used criminally foreign influence. So many ways that might have been made up about the reports of someone shooting someone else with a gun in Weathersfield, a kid who they said was an accident that shot someone else. Even if that was an accident, names on off the locations next to it, and uses of those locations where are involved with the people involved where the Wethersfield Police Department is now and where it used to be, as there rolls on off Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, with Wethersfield, Connecticut, increasingly with a whole bunch of names over there involved with the narratives and natures and background, putting collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases as names, timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. So these aren't they have summaries of law, but they say, oh, it's legit. You can leave it. They're lying about what came first and how they've been using the investigations. Investigators remotely, criminally foreign influence. Whole bunch of people tied to bakeries. There's a Fred Gruzet who's involved with people that worked at like a Mayano. I never seen with a Jonathan Mayano in my life. I didn't even know him. He used to hang around with people that in my area, and then he sought me out alone to make confessions to me. And then they hid where I recorded that. My high school hid that. He was involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Turns out with the family members, the daughter of people associated with and as the daughter of a police chief, Cintron, and 1 years ago, involved with also Newington Police, Rocky Hill, and Hartford police families, like with the name O'Brien, involved with predicate acts with facts on my street, and as the ones who did go down to the police and communicate with them when they were kids. And they brought up the subjects they brought up. And they forced kids to fake and change words about that. Has something to do increasingly with their roles with names at Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University, who have been making confessions and sticking fake things in databases, confessions about their roles with courts. There's a Dr. Shub of modern languages who has a wife involved with Hartford probate courts, involved with elderly homes and with VA locations and with spots along Two Rod Highway with other probate courts and their family members, and their roles with sexual circles together and with other at the same time, where they grew up lying about themselves and others, attaching the others to fake locations, fake ties to themselves and others. Ones with the name Della Fera and Spada have roles with the intelligence community where they're mixed between the branches. They have people with the Connecticut boxing gyms with the judges and prosecutors and their family members and people associated with them at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones planting fake motivations, fake evidences, fake you know, lying what they think about other people's motivations for bringing things up, like the reported murder and the timing of the reported murder of and the different confessions and things tied to that and demonstrations of Greg Kyler. And that was people involved with and as probation officers associated with um, uh, Mike Oliver and other people from boxing. Hartford courts offered to host the deposition of former director of the FBI Robert Lusk and his co-defendants. I didn't know that they would be some of the names. I knew I would be able to get names. I knew that Dean Judd's name is involved, but I can't get him on paper yet. I don't know his kid's name. He knows my name. He has a whole bunch of people with Kensington and with Berlin intelligence in their town offices and businesses and their roles with unmarked police forms, with foreign and domestic medical, sick fakes, whole bunch of doctors tied to a Yagman family, intercities and next to the schools, involved with drugs and medicines crimes, identity thefts and frauds, and with the Riley family, with the school boards, and as my algebra teacher who repeated she was Jewish, and one of the Mike Demain has roles with Allison or some girl who was one of his girlfriends, and one from Colorado, and he would scream things out about her and that. And only I know when I walk by, I'd pretend that fake exceptions tried to know me. Something with a he asked me one time if I wanted to buy a shirt. The only reason I bought that is because people ask about money. That's one of the things that connected them. I didn't know it was going to get connected to World Trade Center predicate acts roles and roles of predicate acts on all Fox Connecticut News. on off WFSB as those ones involved. That's Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, Connecticut, and the spots next to it, as ones involved on off WFSB in Rocky Hill through time, as names who've been putting predicate acts with facts in databases and using predicate acts methods where they call people to offices the office. Oh, you got called to the office. They ask them questions about instances and things, and they make things up. Where they have them say fake things, and then they put totally fake things and ties between kids into databases. Fake natures of ties between kids and databases, as their roles with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases at the same time, simultaneously collusions with the news and the intelligence name, and as conscious uses of the interbranch ones and the ones who are not interbranch but are anyway through exceptions as intelligence community. So the intelligence community is such ways it leaks things, it confesses things, it pretends others simultaneously. So search where and how you when people are speaking about serious things like wars in the news and with passions or without them, because both of that they use criminally for, and the difference of it is also involved. Follow mandated law for the people involved with this. Also, the military is pretending because they did service and went to wars after the World Trade Center attack. It means what it doesn't. Follow mandated law for the military forging and switching names with the Eastern States Narcotics Drugs Task Force with a black MP, and, Officer Floyd, involved with ones with the name Kolvinskis from Germany, and some KKK, some as some KKK ones with him, like with the name Mark Violet, Mike Violet, and their neighbors. Also with other black and KKK themes next to Trinity College through time. And if it was real or made up, the Violets and their roles with the overt criminal enterprises and their narratives and natures next to Hartford Hospital through time, like with Demorrow's Market. I never saw him around Joe Demorrow or the other Joe Demorrows and the Tony Demorrow. There's a Paula Demorrow who's also involved with people with the name McCord, who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed Jonathan Mayano and the brothers and the cousins of Paula Demorrow, and their family members are involved with the former director of the FBI, Robert Lusk, in a whole bunch of different countries all along Route 3 and the New Britain Avenues in Weathersfield, and how there are two parallel New Britain Avenues in Hartford next to Trinity College. That's one of the confessions in Amy and Emily and how she switches names made per her roles with Hartford courts before the World Trade Center attack, criminally foreign influence, and then after it. There's an officer who said they said his name was Officer Hunter, but they're like hiding and switching names with a falsified police report on Church Street, and they have roles with people with the name Daryl Sullivan, and with a girl who switched names with the name Maggie and Magdalena, and pretending to be someone else as their roles with the intelligence families on off Paul Manafort Drive and the spots next to it. Paul Manafort Drive is touching Central Connecticut State University on the southern side of it. These are also people with like intercultural, intracultural identity theft, fraud, slander method natures. Whole bunch of people tied to a Ray Cololo and a Jonathan Mayano. I never saw Ray Cololo on Central Connecticut State University's campus or Trinity College's, but he was planting evidences with others next to Trinity College. Has something to do with people that are tied to modern pastry and Central Connecticut State and Mazzucato pastry, modern pastry and Mazzucato bakery. The Mayano, Jonathan Mayano, has brothers and has family members that he involved with identity thefts and frauds, slanders, speaking sequence shifts, fake time. I never had a cop. One time she walked by me real quick. Jonathan Mayano, his mother. And in other words, We have and he said something one time. He said, in other words, apparently he was recording me, and he's trying to hide lie progressions. They search for truths to use as lies. These are people with uses of words like spying and privacy in the media, where they show that they are measured and maintained, knowingly lying about their motivations with their uses of words like that, and they can't afford to have discerned what mandated law actually mandates while they're doing that, while they're pretending their motivations. Oh, because we're undercover. In other words, oh, we have a story coming up on this. They have Sammy the Bull. Watch Sammy the Bull on YouTube. He's involved with a whole bunch of overt criminal enterprises and private ones with judges and prosecutors and their family members and news people and spots next to them with identity theft, fraud, slander while their tactically delusions raw, while they're pretending to be against drugs, you know. He's pretending to be against drugs and mental health problems. He got out of his minds with the fake things in databases. See these people with descriptions of jails? They're involved with racketeering worse than war crimes. I don't know if the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, I don't know if the state corrections offices know that word corrections. These are people trying to reform criminals. They can't reform them because they had roles with the crime scenes. They have roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, many ways way worse than the little kids they're putting in jail, than the adults they're putting in jail. You should fear God because they're putting innocents there too. Increasingly, those places are used under the guise of corrections. They're keeping the quality of fact human nature, self valued, criminally formed. Because you have to ignore things. People ignore things when the police just ignore them and they keep putting fake things in. It's a torture method. Weathersfield police hang up the pretend passions and emotions. You guys are switching names. Don't play pretend passion emotions for domestics after they were planting evidences through people. Oh, we'll have the court decide. The court's involved doing that. Same time with the other nations in the witness protection program involved. Increasingly, since I was a kid, people from Whiting Forensics planting evidence on my street with corners involved and the schools involved. I caught them with the principal child defender, and I want a response for the other recorded things I caught involved with a Emmett, a principal Emmett, and people that were at the campuses I went, increasingly sticking fake things in databases and planting fake motivations. They're putting kids that don't even like each other next to each other so they can have recalled, make it look like they were naturally together. In other words, they're lying with this. Has something to do with Debbie Gold and a Chet Casper with Jewish themed and like a Bryan family with the different religious spots, intercities, and the different types of the religion and the sense and sensibilities and their sexual circles and roles with people's sense and sensibilities like that. There are a whole bunch of people I don't know. I walked in there for 1 minute. I didn't even realize in a bar one time in Hartford, associated with like a temporary there with a Maria Fazino. Something to do with those bars near the state capital of Connecticut have people act and plan, others try to film things and they cover up their lie progressions and their roles with identity thefts and frauds. I never saw a Maria Fazina on a campus in Weathersfield in my life. And the only time I ever saw her real quick on Central Connecticut State University's campus, there was a Stephen Stocko involved planting evidence and federal evidence in crimes with them. There was roles of wire crimes in Weathersfield police with Weathersfield Pizza too, and no, its conjunction and adjacent to the state judicial branch offices. So there were two speech class teachers I had who have connections to themselves personally and professionally. With a guy who said he was a, a, a partner of the Detective Dillon, Kevin Dillon. He's like a Tom Dillon and Anna Dillon / Annie Dillon. They have roles with a whole bunch of medical offenders of kids, including sexual and medical at Hartford Hospital, including the police forms that work there, including their patients and criminals, people at UConn and they have lawyers involved with wire mail crimes, federal evidences crimes, federal rules of evidences crimes, all kinds of cram downs and scams with the people involved with Hartford Hospital and New Britain Hospital, spots next to them, names next to them. So you have Middletown police forms, people with the state police involved, and New Britain police and Weathersfield police involved with houses, and Hartford police families involved with houses on all sides of Central Connecticut State University. So let's get them on paper and get a response for the Tanya Cologne. I want her husband's name. And I need the response for the Mayflower Moving Company and intelligence people associated with Jose Gill. He put a lot of people in prison. You have some leaders of the prison who have their kids also have been planting evidences. People associated with Johnny Duke, involved with men and women. And a girl who said that she raised him as her kid, and her husband is involved with some foreign and domestic medical and military, and people involved with child abusers and elderly abuses, but also through their own, but also with they have tactical delusions too, and their roles with Covington Street also, and with Sandy Hook prisons. These are people. Central Connecticut State University treats people in criminal justice. They have people from all the different countries that are in the news killing each other. They have collusions here and there. There are fire departments, and there are people that own the leasing or owned it at the time. I don't know if they still do on Covington Street, that apartment. If they sold that without telling you guys, if they sold that, it was criminally foreign influence uses the sales of that. There are real estate agents involved with that. I believe it was a Keller. The name Keller was reported to me by one of the Saudis. They forced the collusions there after the World Trade Center attack as the one involved with the name Spada. I mean, the name Scalora and the name Keene and Demoro and Colo as the ones and Fred Gruzet. These are people with all kinds of medical corruption, foreign and domestic, at Hartford Hospital, and with houses next to campuses, with people that lie about themselves and others, and with the interbranch family members and foreign at the same time. Anthony Yagman is involved with the sexual and medical and other natures of crimes, and the families of school resource officers, also with this Riley family through time, has something to do with their roles with names on off 2 Route Highway to a town line drive too. I mean, too, through time, and the shopping centers, intercities. Mike Roberts also has roles with the state police families, interstates, per the people associated with him. I didn't even ask him. He recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involvements with the sequence chefs and his teachers involved with the intelligence community. He also reportedly ran a tow truck. These are people with a officer who using the name um, Darth Vader, involved with some sexual circles with the different types of sexual circles, like even their types of sexual circles next to Trinity College at the spots. They have a gay sexual place, and they have people that counter it who are collusions with each other, and the same names over here with the Weathersfield police confessions, switching names, forging names, and making confessions over the phone, protecting passions and emotions, and with the names on YouTube. There's a John Adams who's been posting comments. When I block someone, there are proofs that the intelligence community pretends to be me in communications with people, and they're lying about their motivations. Because Hartford Hospital is recorded using and having used investigators remotely by fabricating evidences into databases and then using that to secure warrants and prosecutions, even also because they have personal and professional roles criminally with the kids and in persons as the persons of prosecutors, and since they were kids, roles and backgrounds, spreading lies and illusions to make it look like they're real. The fake things they're putting in databases. So you have to follow mandated law for them, because if you speak too much, they get away with changing and faking what you say. I noted you to specific acts, specific predicate acts. Get the interbranch on the paper in one name and sequence. Let's go. Hurry up now. Let's go. And this came first. Don't forget. And when they're going to try to, when I raised my voice and forced people to call the police, and then when I got there, then I didn't communicate with them, and they pretended other. One group of three people walked, and I went. I saw them walking from a distance away because I already had known. I recognized the people that were in the emergency room. They force people mental evaluation when they raise their voices. Two, when they catch them with child abusers, then they lie about why they raise their voices because they're caught. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, other agencies, and their family members. There are some CIA, you can't lie about that too. It was one of the things they confessed and were confirmed on Facebook. And then they took my Facebook page because they're hiding all the things I had confirmed on Facebook. The state of Connecticut judicial branch offices and names next to it have roles with more various natures of organized crime, predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, as roles with the World Trade Center attack and with the victims at that and Sandy Hook. Follow mandated law for the people who aren't victims of Sandy Hook as the ones running the Sandy Hook promise. Get them on paper. They have no excuses. Get on paper and fix the fake conversations with me and get them on paper with the names of Sandy Hook campuses further involved with the principal child offender and the fire departments and the child campuses and the prison at Sandy Hook too. Fear God. Get off. Get out. Don't. You want to speak about what you think my emotions are. Do it on paper. What my motivations are. Do it on paper. Fix their roles on. They have them on Twitter too. Roles with the upskirt nature's principle further. The people with Sandy Hook Promise and the people with WFSB blocking my posts. Fix the fake conversations with me. You pretend to WFSB. And don't forget there are murders involved intercities with the ones who brought up the untimely deaths and the roles with the names next to the campuses too. Don't forget what I call actually, yeah, I confirmed on Facebook. You guys know that Robert Rodriguez and where he worked and his confessions about logistics. He brought that up. And the people tied to him. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Now get on paper because you got a whole bunch of people from other cities, and this 3 years, for years, planting evidence on my on my street, and they did that, and you guys, you can't, you have no way to get out of it. So you can't follow mandated law. We have to use this as evidence. Where the hell? How the hell did you guys get the audacity to speak? How could you measure bricks and Brexit? I mean, or bricks or whatever, and G7 and value systems leaving out the breaching method employed that. Get down or gather around boxings. I teach you things belong. Make sure this is heard. Make sure they don't, subscribe to my thing, please. But make sure their narratives regarding algorithms and stuff like that from off all locations. They're maintaining sustained additional motivation. Don't entertain. Don't pretend there's integrity in one branch of government, black people. Make sure you follow mandated law. I mentioned specific wire crime acts and methods, like specific predicate acts. Officers switching and forging names, faking conversations with me, like these Mendes police, further involved with a Bob Chase, with a Phil Cololo too, with falsified police reports when I caught them forcing a principal child offender. They have further roles with credible threats of violence and natures of gun crimes, roles with knife crimes and poisons, and pretending to be against such simultaneously because their behavior racketeering too. Their descriptions of people's behavior is leaving out what came first too. So fear God and stop playing games through everyone. I can show you this is the game they do. Sometimes it's in other words, don't leave out what came first and keep my name left out of your minds. At least you want to speak about my name and you want to speak for you, do it on sequence first. Get me a response. Don't talk to me. Make sure you don't pretend. You don't know what came first, and make sure you don't try to ask anyone to describe my behavior, leaving out what came first. And I'm warning. Most people wouldn't warn you because you guys have roles with federal evidence and crime. You're gonna fear God for what I call the past police chiefs doing with the same house and the ones tied to them with the wire crime acts and methods. And you're going to get out of your roles with the Afghans and the overt criminal enterprises, even if they're all undercover on Zion Street in Hartford, and where you as the ones with uses of my name, and there's ties to this Mr. Neville. I had an eighth grade teacher named Mr. Neville who has something to do with the intelligence community interstate, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, putting fake things in databases, rolled with fake people, and has a fake soul. Has something to do with people on off Trinity College and along Route 3 involved with this creep back and others writing forensics when I was a kid and now I was an adult, planting evidences with people on off my house, having conversations with them behind my back. Fear God, vaccines. I teach us things.